Konnichiwa, everyone, from probably the most organized, respectful, technological, clean country I've ever visited, Japan. The best thing I did was get a Japan Rail Pass before I got to Japan, which allows you to travel on the Shinkansen and on every other train and metro system in Japan, which is ridiculously efficient and has allowed me to pretty much travel throughout the whole country with zero effort. So you can see Japan is super green, very environmentally conscious. They have bikes everywhere, so the first thing I did, obviously, was rent one. And that was probably the best and funnest decision because whoever knows me knows that I usually start feeling at home once I'm on my two wheels. I'm glad I started out in Kyoto because it is more or less the center of everything cultural and everything that usually connects mentally with Japan. Geishas, extremely cute little Japanese alleys. You really get that taste for not only the culture, but the people, the food, the rituals, everything that you need to get a first feeling of what this country is all about. So in Shintoism, which is the original religion of Japan, in order to pray and visit a shrine, you go, you ring the bell, you bow, you make your wish, and then only in Shintoism you clap twice for the gods to receive your wish. There is 1,600 temples only in Kyoto, which makes it impossible to visit everything. I got a very good tip from Chris Dalton in the UK, so thanks, Chris, to not only go to the big ones, but really find the smaller ones, the secluded ones that don't have these masses of people, and really spend time, dig in, appreciate the place, feel these Zen moments that you get in the temples and the gardens instead of just rushing. So I think I really identified some beautiful places that were definitely worth it. And one thing I learned was the closer in Kyoto that you actually get to the mountains, the more beautiful it gets. Nara was a town just outside of Kyoto and was actually the first capital of Japan under a unified emperor. And that was also the town where Buddhism was introduced. And they had this huge Buddha statue in the Toraiji temple that was an incredible experience to visit. I followed the advice of someone to pay the entrance fee, step in without looking up, kind of hiding in the corner, collecting yourself, breathing, and then looking up at it, and it was definitely worth it. It probably got me as close to enlightenment as I will ever get in life. What's interesting is that Buddhism and Shintoism really coexist in Japan. And just as with many other things in this country, they've kind of learned to adapt the best things that work for them and to have a good combination of it all as long as it works, with maybe the exception of Christianity, which I didn't find many churches for, and they had their problems, including that. But those two religions together formed a very unique combination for this country. So temples and shrines, sometimes you don't even know if it's Shintoism or Buddhism, but the experience was impeccable. What's usually one of the first things that most people associate with Japan? Yep, the samurai. The samurai were actually servants to the shogun, who is, well, let's say the commander-in-chief, and the shogun or the shogunates ruled Japan for quite a bit. So there are castles throughout the country that are definitely worth visiting. I did too. There's more, but the architecture and the style is amazing. In one of those, Himeji, you can actually climb all the way up to the top and look down on the city. And they also have old documents that kind of tell you about the samurai and their deployment throughout the castle. And then one other highlight was definitely the Arashiyama bamboo grove. And that's something you should do very early in the morning because you need quiet and silence to enjoy it without the tourists. The first city I visited outside of Kyoto was Hiroshima, which was obviously a very, very emotional trip because we all know what the city is still emotionally connected to, which is the dropping of the first atomic bomb. And they have a museum there that kind of outlines everything that happened and the sheer monstrosity of the effects of it. I won't show the pictures that got to me most because it was just unbearable in a lot of ways, but even just visiting and appreciating what all of this did and still can do, I think is a must-do for everyone in Western civilization. What's interesting though is that the new Hiroshima is a very, very lively city with lots of great shopping, some of the most positive people that I've seen in Japan, and just a lot of positivity throughout the streets. And it was nice to see that things grow no matter what happens. So last trip of this week was down to Fukuoka and Kyushu, which is the southernmost of the 4 islands of Japan. Very lively city, 6th biggest in Japan, and the nice thing is that most of the attractions are actually runnable. So I did most of the sightseeing there by working out. So you can do some really good step work and some sightseeing at the same time with some nice stairworks at the castle. Arata is a small town about 1.5 hours outside of Fukuoka, where I went for a day trip to hike. It's down in the mountains. It was freezing cold, but still very beautiful hike through the countryside there, really getting a sense for the way that the Japanese live outside of the bigger cities. All in all, I'm simply amazed by this country and the hospitality, the culture, the way that they invite you to tea and ceremonies. Everything has a ceremony and a ritual there, and it's all probably more than 400 years old. So you need to know a lot about this to really root here in the culture. Every region has their own foods that they're very proud of. They obviously do a lot with rice balls and fish, and then obviously for everyone that knows Japan, the ramen and green tea everywhere. It's always free in the restaurants. The hygiene there is super important. You have certain protocol that you need to keep inside of the house, certain things that you need to wear in certain moments, and not to go into too much detail, but their bathrooms and their toilets, definitely make sure that you leave the place clean. So it's just a beautiful country that has a Western style routine, but with very Asian looks and very old rituals. And you're definitely talking to a new Japan fan all the way through. So I'm really looking forward to my second week here. I still have some to go, so make sure that you stay with me and check back in next week when I'm going to be in Tokyo and surroundings. Thank you so much, and bye bye.